Greetings, beautiful people, and welcome to a new episode of Bad Thought Therapy. I'm Sheree Hardy. I hope you're well. I am super excited that I have been able to complete another school year. I praise God for giving me the strength and the grace to be able to do that. I'm just so grateful. I still have about 2 or 3 more years to go before I can officially retire, but oh, my goodness, I'm so grateful right now. Still have some work to do, some online classes that I have to take, but nevertheless, I can be at home for the next couple of days. Well, I'm going to talk about the person who a lot of people are talking about, and that is Cheyenne Bryant. But before I get started, I want to say that I don't want to, I don't want people to think that I'm trying to be mean or trying to judge her because I cannot afford to do that. I don't think anyone can afford to judge her. And I don't think most podcasters are trying to be nasty. I think they're just pointing out some life lessons. Those righteous podcasters that I've watched, they really are trying to get people to see the life lessons. And in some cases, they're really praying for her. I know I am. And they're hoping that she will be able to humble herself and come clean and just try to start anew. And I know that's not easy. I am calling this episode The New Delilah, the truth about Cheyenne Bryant, because there's some things that even though I don't know her, there are some things that I do know as someone who has lived for over 6 decades that her behavior is manifesting. So there's a public persona. We see people in public and we see their story, but there is also another story, and that's the story that we don't see, the story of their past, the story of their inner struggles that we don't see. But what we know is that, and this is why I do bad thought therapy, is everything that is in you is going to come out. So whatever is in you, there is no way for it not to come out. It is going to come out one way or the other. So you have to be mindful about what is in your heart and what is in your mind. That's the greatest life lesson. You must daily assess what is in your heart and what is in your mind. And you must ask God to reveal the truth to you. And it really doesn't matter about anyone else. It really does matter about what relationship you have with God. But when you ask God to reveal the truth, He is going to reveal it. And when He does, that is when you in the natural have to have the courage, you have to have the humility to then deal with the truth. And sometimes the truth is doesn't feel good. It's very painful. And that's why people don't get healing, because they're so busy trying to anesthetize themselves. They're not getting the kind of healing that they need. They're not making the changes that they have to make. I've said it before in this episode, there are two realms that are working at all times. There's the supernatural realm and there's the natural realm. That's the realm that we're in. And even though we're asking God to help us and reveal things and heal us and to purge things, that is not going to happen until we do the work in the natural that it requires. And I use this example all the time. Like if you needed a job, you could pray for a job and God could open doors for you, but you would still have to go out and apply. You would still have to make some calls. You still have to complete the applications, do the interview. You would still have to make sure that you're doing the right things in order to maintain that job and keep that job, have good character, all of those things. So while we can pray for God to heal us, to open our hearts and open our minds to see things the way that He sees them, we still in the natural have to do some things. And a lot of times the reason why it's hard because people are just not humble. We have to be humble. And God will not use you if you are not humble. Now, I want to say something about success that I learned a long time ago. I was in a conversation with someone that I know very well, known her all my life, and we were talking about this particular minister. And she said something that really made me think. And over the years, I've thought about it quite a bit. She said that God is not the only person that is blessing people. She said that the devil blesses people too. Now, it didn't sound right, but I thought about it for a long time. I thought, can the devil bless people? What I realized is that only God blesses. However, Our spiritual enemy does give us things. He gives us things in order to use them so that we can do his work. Because remember, we're vessels. And in the spiritual realm, the spirit of whatever, spirits are always looking for a host to be able to enact or do whatever evil thing that it wants us to do. And the ultimate thing is that there is going to be destruction, there is going to be pain, there's usually going to be death, there is going to be all these bad things. So what the enemy would do is let a person get fame, maybe get money, maybe get something, and then once he has used that person, because that person is being used by the enemy and to be deceptive, to do things that are going to cause people to go astray or cause people to be hurt in some way, and sometimes and even cause death. Once that person does the work, then the enemy will reveal that person in the natural so that everybody can see it. So basically, our spiritual enemy uses people. And then once he uses people to do the dirty work, then he exposes them to the world. Now, the good thing is God can heal anybody. We know the story of Saul in the Bible and how God changed him from Saul to Paul, and how Saul was a persecutor of the early Christians, and how one day as he was walking somewhere, the Holy Spirit touched him and changed his life, and we know that he became an apostle for Christ, and he in the end, was sold out for Jesus and died, for what he believed. And so Cheyenne Bryant, no matter where she is right now in her heart, because we see her behavior, we see her cursing people out, we see her saying she's not going to stop using the term doctor in front of her name, and that she is doing she's working for the Lord. She's saying all these things. We're seeing her anger. We're seeing her not have a lot of emotional management and regulation. We're seeing all those things. Nevertheless, God, ooh, the great Lord, Yah Elohim, can touch her and change her and use her for his kingdom. And that is what some of us are praying for. That, we could use her as a cautionary tale. There's some great life lessons here that I want to talk about in this episode. And y'all forgive me, I have not had a chance to kind of take the notes that I want to take, but I will get there one day. Prayerfully, don't forget, you can like the video if you think you got something out of it, and subscribe. It only takes a few seconds, but let's get into it. But before we do, I want to talk about Delilah, in case you're not familiar with that term. And this is just some background information of why I'm using that term. So some of you know the Bible story of Delilah and Samson. Here Delilah is a woman from the Valley of Sorek, featured in the book of Judges. So if you go back to the Old Testament, you can find the book of Judges. She is best known for betraying her lover, the Israelite judge Samson. Now, Samson was very strong. He had supernatural strength because God worked through him, and no one knew where his strength lied. So these people were willing to give her, the Philistine, or Philistine as some people say, leaders were willing to give this woman 1,100 pieces of silver, which was like she would become like a millionaire overnight if she could find out what Samson's strength, where he got his strength from, and that she would reveal it to him. So Samson did have a relationship with this woman. Clearly, she was a very beautiful woman. She was able to seduce him. And at first, when she tried to inquire about his strength, he lied. He lied several times. And this is what's deep, is that even though he could clearly see that she was trying to find out the strength, and as soon as she found out the strength, she tried to, like, for example, it's like bind him with bowstrings and new ropes. But when she did it, she found out, that it wasn't really where his strength lied, but he still kept giving her secrets. And he was so annoyed that he finally told her that his strength was in his hair. He did not cut his hair. So once he told her that, she cut his hair. And because he was a Nazarite and he no longer had his strength, and then the Philistines, were able to capture him and imprison him and torture him. His eyes were gouged out, and then and then his strength began to go. His hair began to go back, so he began to get his strength. At the very end, he was able to kill the people. His strength came back. He couldn't see. He asked someone to tell him where these pillars were, where he was being detained, and he was able to destroy everybody. The name Delilah has since entered the cultural lexicon as a term for a deceitful or seductive woman who leads a man to his downfall. And I am going to say that that is something that Miss Bryant is doing. And I'm not jealous of her. That's another thing she will say. Well, people are just jealous of me because she looks a certain way, she carries herself a certain way. And let's be honest, she is, to a lot of men, she's very attractive. But in her saying that, that reveals a lot too, because if you use your beauty, just use your beauty to manipulate, to deceive, um, to control, you use it in that way, then you are being a Delilah. And that's the thing. You may be beautiful, but how are you using that beauty? If you're walking out the house and you have on very revealing clothing, and you know most men, they struggle with lust and they are thinking about sex all day every day, and you know that. And if you say you have training, you know a lot about how many of these men, they're addicted to porn, and you know all that. So what you're doing is you're using that lust that they have for you, and you use it, and nobody's mad at you for doing it, but they're life lessons for the people who are watching you, and they may even be innocent and trying to emulate you, which many of them are. Many women, young women, are using, and older women too. I've seen it too. They're trying to use their bodies, but there is a consequence to that. That's what I'm going to try to talk about in this episode. Talk about some life lessons for those of you who want to grow and to learn. All right, so let's jump right in here. Let's go on. And y'all know, if you're on YouTube, I have slides, but this is meant to be audio. I just have the slides there so that I can create a video to be on YouTube. Okay, so but it's not meant to be watched. At some point, I'm gonna get in the studio going, and y'all will get to see me. But anyway, let's move forward with these life lessons. Peace and blessings. So I talked about this in one of my previous episodes, after I saw Cheyenne Bryant on Cam Newton's show, and I noticed that she had on a very revealing dress. Her breasts were almost out. You could almost see most of her breasts, and the dress was short. She had on heels, and she dressed like that in front of a young man, and that is, so number one, it's unprofessional, and number two, you cannot claim you're innocent to how that will affect a lot of men. It didn't seem to affect Cam. Cam seems to understand the game. He's that's a smart young man. Don't get it twisted. Cam is a smart young man, and for you to go on, and I've talked about this, and she's not the only woman that's done this, but many women do know that they're attractive, and they could be attractive. They're attracted to a lot of people, and when they walk out of the house, they're going to use their bodies to influence people, to manipulate people, to deceive, to get something. Now, the only problem with that is if you are wearing something intentionally, knowing that it's going to stir up somebody's lust, then you're doing it for in an unrighteous way. And that's the issue is, and this is the message to anybody. It's not just Cheyenne Bryant. It's just not, because I don't know her and I don't know her story. I know that she has one, I'm sure. But if you are a young woman, especially, I do know older women do this too, but especially young women, if you go out of the house and you're dressing provocatively and you're not having on a lot of clothes and you're showing a lot of flesh and you're intentionally trying to show off your body, then you are going to deal with the spirit of lust towards you. And that can be a problem. Now, I don't know if Cheyenne Bryant has, bodyguards. She might need to have security. But you have a lot of men and they're already struggling with lust. So you go out the house and you're dressed that way, and and this is so sad, because so many men in our society objectify women. They dehumanize and they objectify women when they see you like that, and they think you're just a piece of meat, and they think you're putting out your body. They want your body. That's what they want. They're not concerned about what's in your heart. They're not concerned about your mind. And here's the thing too about beauty, and I taught this to my students many, many years ago. I've told this story over and over again over the years. It does not matter how beautiful you are. Your beauty may be able to attract a man, but it may not keep a man. And your beauty doesn't determine how you'll be treated. You can be beautiful inside and out. It doesn't just have to be outward beauty. You can actually be a beautiful person on the inside as well. And you can be loyal and kind, intelligent and generous and all those positive adjectives. And guess what? It still does not mean that a man will treat you with respect and dignity. Because we're living in a society, number one, and I got to do a whole episode on this, where no one is teaching our young men how to respect women. You can find all kinds of organizations that, try to support men and mentor young men, but there is nothing in their program, not one class, not one session where they directly and intentionally teach men how to deal with women. So you have a generation of men growing up and they have no respect for women, even though they came from a woman. They wouldn't even be alive if it had not been for a woman. But they're not learning how to respect women. Now, I teach at all-girls school. This year, I was fortunate enough to teach one class of boys. I taught French to one class of boys. And I learned a lot. It was very interesting. These were good children. However, what I realized is that when it came to women, when it came to girls, everything was off. No one had taught them. First of all, they don't understand girls. So boys and girls are different, and they focus on different things. No one had taught them about girls and about respect. And here I am trying to do that, because I realized, because the girls would peek in like, well, yeah, how do you get boys over here? Because our schools are in one big building, but they're separated. So the girls were trying to sneak in, like seeing what's going on, the boys over on their side. But I had to have a lot of conversations with them, and I used a lot of stories in the media. And really, most of the time, at first, they didn't want to pay attention. But when I start saying, if this were your mother, if this were your sister, if this were your grandmother, a woman that you love, now that kind of got them to focus a little bit. And then, of course, I had to say, okay, this is going to be for a grade. You have to write some kind of response. So I really kind of forced them to do these lessons with me that involve thinking about how you're supposed to treat a woman. Even if a woman is being dishonorable or disrespectful, you're supposed to do the right certain things no matter what. Anyway, so we're going back to Cheyenne Bryant. That's the world we're growing up in. We have a lot of men that have absolutely no respect for women. And when you come out the house and you don't have on any clothing, they feel like you're something that they can just, like going shopping. They can pick it up, they can test it out. And even though they should not do that, that's the mindset, that's the culture that we're living in today. And then we're living in it's weird, we're in a hyper sexualized society. While everything is about sex, yet no one is talking about love. So now you have a situation where you're talking about sex all the time, but there's no love connected to it. There is no committed relationships connected to that. So it becomes a problem. So let that be your life lesson. If you use your body to try to get attention, people are going to look, and they are going to try. They're going to take up your offer, basically. You put your body out there on a platter, and they're like, hey, give me some. And then I remember one time, there was a guy I was talking to, and I'll never forget what he said. He was talking about how women, they do, that he knew some people that stripped or whatever. And he was saying, like, at these strip clubs, at first, it's just taking off their clothes, just showing their body or whatever. But then somebody's going to come along and offer some money and say, hey, I'll give you this if you'll do that. And after a while, people are like, okay, well, I'm going to get all this money just to be with this person for one night. And it becomes this very, very dangerous, a lot of times deadly and sad spiral, because then you start to do everything for money. But for someone to know that the world, they say they're therapists or they say they're psychologists or whatever they say they are, even if you're not those things, people are aware of how going out the house with no clothes on would affect a man. Everybody knows that. So that's basic one-on-one human behavior, one-on-one psychology. And for you to do that and use that reveals a lot about your character. It will backfire. And again, I just want to emphasize, it doesn't matter how beautiful you are or how intelligent you are, how giving you are. If a man does not know your worth, he will not respect you. And if you put your body out there, men start to form certain ideas about you, because you have just put your body out there for the world to see and to lust after. So that's just one point I want to make. And I get it, this is all about money. At the end of the day, we need money. I get it. We need money. Some people choose to get money in different ways. Some people work. I would be considered someone, I guess, that works a 9 to 5 because I'm a teacher. Some people now, the internet, YouTube, and other social media platforms, they are allowing people to make money. Usually, though, you can't be just a plain Jane making money. You're going to have to do something for shock value. You're going to have to say some shocking things or look a certain way. For most people, that's how they make money. And everybody needs money. I'm sure Cheyenne Bryant needs money. And I'm sure she has a lot of bills. She has expenses. And if she's not going to go out there and get a so-called regular job and she's going to be on social media, she is using her looks as leverage. And now I don't think it's good to say people are jealous of your looks, because I don't know. And to me, that's a form of arrogance when you think people are just jealous because you look a certain way. And they may not be jealous at all. They actually may pity you because you feel so low. That's all you got. If all you got is your looks and that's all you feel you got, that's very sad. Because if you're going out and you're putting that out there, that's the impression that people are going to have. So really it's sad. But anyway, it's about money. Here's the thing about money, though. There's a scripture, and I know you've heard it 1,000 times. What does it profit a man or woman to gain the whole world, but to lose his soul or her soul? In other words, you can get all the money in the world, but if you've gotten that money by not having character, by being deceptive, by being manipulative, by being deceitful, then you have gotten that money in an unrighteous way. And the question is, then is that money really, is that from a blessing from God, or is that Satan giving you something? Giving you something so you can feel like you can keep doing what you're doing until he is finished with you, until he has used you enough where now he's going to uncover everything about you. Is it really worth it? And we know the answer is absolutely not. The life lesson here is, we all need money. We all want to have nice things. I know I do. And I know most people do. But here's the thing. Should you get your money by manipulation, by deceit, by lies? The reality is, it seems, because the research is there. Everybody has research. Cheyenne Bryant does not have a doctorate degree. But she came out and went around the country and on these different shows as if she were a licensed therapist. If she did have a doctorate degree, she presented that. But that's not true. She doesn't have one. And what she needs to say is, and this is where it gets bad, she should just say, I don't have one. Now see, and when you lie and you double down on your lies, that reveals deceit. That reveals malintent. And you can't get any good out of that. You may get something, but in the end, because it's not from God, it's going to eventually cause more pain than it does joy, from the temporary joy of having money. If you don't get that money the right way, it won't be, you can't keep it. Ill-gotten gains is what the term they use. You get it the wrong way, it will be taken away from you. So what I hope, and this is another life lesson, number one, is don't use your body to get attention and to manipulate and to deceive, because it always turns out bad in the end. Number two, tell the truth. Shame the devil and tell the truth. Some people may feel like they have to lie, because they just, and somebody made a point, and it was a powerful, just simple point, was like, you don't even have to come out and say you have a doctorate. You can just come out and just be a life coach, or you can be an influencer. Influencer is the term they use, and you don't have to have any credentials. But to say you have something and you don't really have it, for whatever the reason, there's a backstory, but for whatever the reason, to say you have it and you don't have it, and you're telling a lie in front of the entire world, it makes you look untrustworthy. When you're not trustworthy, the people who really can empower you, they're not going to trust you. So that's why you need to come clean when you make a mistake, especially I'm not a person that's, I don't necessarily believe in public confessions, but if you are a public figure and you're making your money from the public, yes, you owe the public a confession. You owe them the truth, and this is how she can be restored, and this is how you be restored. You come out and say you did it. You come out and say, I have issues. I messed up. I did it. And I'm telling you, she has issues, and a lot of people have issues. I get it. Let me say something. When you grow up and you feel worthless, and maybe you're even told you're worthless. Maybe you're told you're not anything special. You feel that way. What happens for some people is then it's like this thing where you have to try to prove everybody wrong. You have to show people, no, I am worthy. I am somebody. And you're no longer just doing it from within. You're doing it for outwardly motivation, because you got to show people, you got to prove that, yes, I'm worth it. And really and truly, when you walk with God, you don't have to prove that to anybody. What happens is you become an overachiever, or you try to be an overachiever. How do I know? Because I've been there. You feel like worthless. You have low self-esteem. And it doesn't matter how you look. It doesn't matter what your gifts are. You could be an intelligent person, a beautiful person. But if you don't feel that way, and then you have somebody who has a lot of significance in your life, the enemy will use those people to tell you that you're nothing, you're never going to be anything, you're going to be just like your old no good dad, or whatever the case may be. When you believe that and you internalize those lies, what happens is you have this natural compulsion to want to say no, because inside you feel, that there's a remnant of God which you haven't totally opened yourself up to him, but you know that it's in you. You know you're more than what they're saying. So now you got to try to prove it. And what I sense is that's what Cheyenne Bryant is dealing with, and a lot of people deal with this. Don't believe the lie that you're worthless, that you can never be anything, that you're not this and you're not that. Because if you're not careful, what you'll do is, in your effort to, either you're going to overachieve for real, or you're going to pretend like you're achieving and you're not, and you're lying. And both of those can be very, very dangerous. You are enough. The Most High God has created every single human being as enough. You know what I tell my students when somebody tries to, put them down and talk about them, and whether it's physical, intellectual, whatever, I tell them, take it up with God. You got a problem with me? You got a problem with how I look? You got a problem with this or that? Take that up with God, because God made me. And then don't get into a debate about who you are. You just let them figure it out. They got it. That's something they got to work out. But know that regardless of what you do, regardless of what you have, because you are a child of God, you are enough. And God has equipped each of us with whatever we need for this journey and it's a unique journey for all of us. No one has the same set of fingerprints. Every single human is different and unique. So we don't have to work overtime to try to prove that we're worthy. And that's what happens a lot of times with people. They're trying to, they're trying to. And then, two, if you have a past where you might not have grown up with a silver or golden spoon, you might not have, you might have grown up in poverty, you might have grown up in dysfunction, and then you've got to prove, hey, you know what, even though I went through all this, I'm still somebody. And then, especially if people have never done that, they've never gone through that, constantly comparing yourself with others. That's the life lesson here. You're enough. Don't lie, do not lie, and do not pretend that you are something that you are not. Now, there was this talk about, are you supposed to use doctoral or doctorial? And I'm a linguist, and I have to tell you this, it's sad because some people don't know that doctorial is a word, and you can use it. It's not used as much as doctoral, but doctoral and doctorial, they're the same things. And they're adjectives, and you can use them. Doctorial is a real word, and you can use it. So they were saying that Cheyenne Bryant was using that term. She was using it incorrectly, and that's simply not true. She was using it correctly. So I would just randomly thought about that, and I want to make sure I put that out there. But that's the thing. Don't do anything just for money. I believe that, and I know a lot of people have discovered this, when you just walk in excellence, when you do the right things and you walk in excellence, and you're not so much focused on the money, but you're focused on building God's kingdom, using the gift that He has given you, money will come. Will it be millions? Maybe not. Will it be thousands? Maybe. But I'm telling you, it's enough. Whatever it is, it's going to be enough if you're focused on the right thing. We are all put here to build God's kingdom. How we do that, the how is going to vary. Some people will do it as therapists. Some people will do it as doctors. Some people will do it as accountants, as teachers, as lawyers, as architects. People do it in different ways. But we all have a purpose, and that purpose is very simple. How am I going to make this world a better place? God's kingdom is people. How am I empowering people? Well, the thing is, you can't empower people if you're being deceptive, if you're lying, if you're trying to hide behind lies. And my heart grieves because, again, I know that deep inside, when you feel very small, you will constantly have to, you end up bragging, you end up trying to boast, you end up trying to overcompensate, you overachieve, and that's what's going on here, and that is exhausting. And we have to let it go. And when my daughter was growing up, I tried to tell her, never compete with other people. Don't look to the left and don't look to the right. Look up to God. Just try to, if you're going to compete with yourself. Try to outdo yourself. Sometimes you will be on top, sometimes you'll be on the very bottom. But it doesn't take away your worth because you belong to the Most High God. And that's the message that I wish that Cheyenne Bryant would get. And maybe she can, I hope she's not another fallen social media personality. And it hurts people because then you see a person who is pretending and fake, and then now, and someone legitimate can come along, but then people like, well, okay, she's fake, I don't know if she's real. Now, the good news is the internet, it's hard to get away from the internet, and the internet is going to reveal the truth about people. It's going to expose people, and you just can't get around it. And if you're not even on there, they can find you. So the truth has come out. She doesn't have a doctorate. She won't humble herself and say, you know what, I don't have a doctorate. Some things happen. It's a long story, but nevertheless, I don't have it. And every time she's on a show, I saw some clips where she started cursing some people out. She started using profanity. She has these, profanity-laced rants like everybody's jealous of her and everybody's against her for no reason. And that's just simply not true. People care. People don't want to see another beautiful black woman go down in flames. And I just think continuing to lie and doubling down on lies in the end is only going to make it worse. And so that is bad. And so I pray that she will come clean. And that's a life lesson. We all make mistakes, and for whatever the reason, people make different kinds of mistakes. And this is what we have to do. Once we make them, we have to confess them. I'm not saying you have to do a public confession. If you're not a public figure, I don't believe that. But you need to confess your mistakes to the people, directly to the people you've hurt. And you don't need to even go into all the intricate details. You just need to say, I messed up. Big time. I made a gross mistake. I was wrong. With a period after that. Then say, I'm going to work to try to redeem myself and restore. If it's a relationship, now I'm going to try to restore this relationship if the other person is willing, if the other people are willing. What can I do to restore it? Now, in some cases, there's nothing you can do. The damage is irreparable. However, you can, if you're right with God, the people may say, you know what, even if they forgive you, they may choose not to give you access to their life. And you have to respect that. They may forgive you and they may try to reconcile with you, but you have to do the work to prove to them that you're truly a new person. Your mind is renewed. And that takes a lot of effort and it takes time. And that's what I think we all should do when we really mess up. We should pause. I know she may need some money right now. I don't know her situation. I hope she was saving some money. That's another life lesson. First of all, when you live below your means, a lot of people want to be rich and famous and they want to live this extravagant lifestyle. And if you got it, there's some people, I know rich people, some people got it like that. They can do that. But when you don't have it, you have to understand you have more peace when you're living within your means. And if you're not living an extravagant lifestyle, but you may have more money in the bank than the people who are trying to pretend like they got an extravagant lifestyle. Because really, that's all that matters. And that's another powerful life lesson. Don't seek fame and fortune. Again, seek ways to empower God's people. And when you do that, you may have money, a lot of money. You may not get a lot of money, but be at peace with what you've given and always live below your means. And all this stuff is a joke because you can't take any of this stuff with you. And a lot of people, they buy all this expensive stuff and it's not better because it costs more. They bought into these lies about money and don't fall into that trap feeling like, okay, I gotta wear a certain kind of shoe, I gotta have a certain handbag, I gotta live in a certain gated community. You are still just as worthy as anybody else. Yes, that's an ideal. I would love to live in a different house. I'm getting ready to get my house renovated, but I would love to live. I was just talking to my best friend, and we still have dreams and goals. We're in our 60s and we still have dreams and goals. But guess what? If I never get that house, I'm at total peace. I'm not focused on material things. I'm focused on God and working for his kingdom, because at the end of the day, we all going to leave. And none of this stuff can be packed up and taken with us. And it's not about how much stuff you collected. It's about how many lives you changed, how many people you impacted in a positive way. That's what it's really about. And the reason why so many people are sick is because they're looking at all these people with the so-called wealth. Some of these people really do have wealth and some of them don't. And don't compare yourself to anybody. If you stop looking at other people and what they got, and you start looking at your life and being grateful for what you have and celebrating the people in your life who love you, you will have so much peace and joy. You don't have to worry about, what somebody else has or doesn't have. But that's another issue that I can see. People trying to keep up with the Joneses, and it's wearing them out. They're not getting sleep. They're not resting. They're not able to take care of themselves. And especially if your output, and this is another one, not another life lesson, you have to be careful, because I work as a full-time educator, so podcasting is something I do on the side. I do look at a lot of content on YouTube. I listen to it rather, because when I'm in my car driving, have a little drive to work, I'll listen to it. Sometimes when I'm around the house, I'm listening. But what I notice is that a lot of people are always putting out. And if your output is not greater than your input, eventually you're going to crash and burn. And that's why you have to be careful. I know people need money, and apparently YouTube pays people, and so they're always putting out and putting out. But I'm thinking, when are you resting? When are you inputting? In other words, when are you meditating and praying and getting direction from God? That takes a lot of time. You're getting 10 minutes of time in prayer, but then you on, YouTube, or you're doing all these tours or whatever you're doing, and that's taking hours and hours and days. How much time are you getting it in? Because what you put in is what's going to determine what's coming out. And maybe that's why she's going on these profanity raids and going off on people and people are bringing up the issue because it's a legitimate issue. If you say that you have something and you don't, and you're a liar, it just creates a lot of distrust for you. It means you're not trustworthy. And it means that people are reluctant to follow anything you say. But if you would come clean and you would admit the truth and shame the devil and let it go, and if you would deal with yourself on the inside, what's really motivating you? Again, I get the money thing because Lord knows we need it, we want it, and we all want to live the best possible life. But you know what? I'm so thankful. I learned a long time ago that money does not define me. And I know how quick it is a person could be a millionaire, and I know how quick it is they could lose everything. And I know that a lot of people are out here pretending, and they're lying, and they're really broke. Because here's the thing, and it's very simple. If you make $1 million and you spend $1 million, you are broke. Now that I'm at retirement age, another thing, I don't know if people are thinking like this, but I am close to retirement, and I know that I hope people are out here preparing to, stop working. I hope that people are, while they're getting this money, they're saving it. And I hope that they are investing it in the right ways. Because, getting the money is one thing, keeping the money is a whole different thing. And if you don't keep it and you don't learn how to keep it in the right ways, then you have to if you're not doing it with honesty, you become more creative with your evil. And that's not pleasing to the Most High God. And you simply, at some point, it's going to come down. It's all going to come down. So before I end this episode, I just want to recap the life lessons that we can learn from Cheyenne Bryant. Number one, you have to tell the truth. Honesty truly is the best policy. You can sleep at night, you can rest, you can have peace when you're honest. When you've been deceitful, when you've lied, when you've cheated, when you've manipulated to get something, it's always that whatever you did is going to be exposed, number one. And then whatever you got that you didn't get from the right ways is going to be taken away from you some way or the other. So that's one big life lesson. Never use your body, never be manipulative or deceitful to try to get something. And most people, I do get it, they're trying to get money. That's the thing. And we live in a society, and I could just do a whole book on this and talk about this forever, where it's all intentional to get you to feel like you're never satisfied. You could have everything already. You could have a nice home and clothes and shoes and a job or whatever you have, and it's like it's never enough. I recommend never pursuing money, but pursue your purpose. Pursue, and everybody has one, and only you and God will know that. You go to God with a humble heart, with a righteous mind, and ask God to reveal to you the path that you should take, what you should do, and how you should do it. And when you go to Him with a humble heart and you're willing to spend time with Him, the greatest place to be is in God's presence. I get it. We want provision. We want protection. We want all these blessings. I get that. I understand it. Lord, yes, I do. However, being in God's presence and letting Him reveal answers, letting Him work on us, do surgery on us, our hearts and our minds, that is the best place for us to be. And therefore, we can rest knowing that we don't have to try to use our bodies. We don't have to lie. We don't have to be deceptive to try to get anything. But if we focus on the gifts that He's given us to build His kingdom, and that's going to be done in different ways, everything will be all right. You may get a lot of money. You may not get a lot of money. But here's something that I learned. Most people are frustrated because there's something they want that they don't have. And usually it's money. Okay, it's money. And when you're like this, there are only two things you can do. Number one, you can make peace about not having money. And you can be grateful for what you do have. And you can also have peace by saying, okay, I don't have all the money that I feel like I need or want. Now I'm going to come up with a plan with God's approval to get the money in the right way. Because it's the only way to have peace. Because again, if you're doing it and you're not doing it by God's law and God's way, it's just not going to work. So don't use your body. Don't try to manipulate. Don't try to lie. You don't have to do that. Number two, here's the other thing. Everything you do in the dark will come to the light. It will come to the light. And when it comes to the light, you must then, if you're a public figure, you must confess publicly. If you're not a public figure, you've got to confess to the people that you have deceived or you have hurt. When you make a mistake, another life lesson, because we all make them, it is best to face that mistake. Be honest. Humble yourself. Sit down. Be humble. Yes, I'm quoting Kendrick Lamar. And you got to confess it. You got to admit it, because you can't quit something you don't admit and you don't acknowledge. You have to acknowledge it. And then you have to set in motion an action or actions to then try to recover or redeem or reconcile. Now, you can't go back in time. So you cannot reverse the past. Once it's done, it's already done. And you can't go back and you can't undo the past. But once you make the mistake and you face that mistake and you acknowledge that mistake, you have to take real action for redemption and reconciliation. I want to emphasize, and this is something that I stress to people, my students, everybody, my child, everybody I know, what you put in you is what's going to come out. Your input is critical. What you're listening to, what you're watching, the people that you are around, what you're reading, all of that is critical. If you're not reading anything that is uplifting or constructive or relationship building or is enhancing you spiritually, it can't come out. And so eventually you're going to end up saying some things and doing some things that are actually destructive to you and other people. So I on this podcast, almost every episode I have said, talking about the importance of turning off everything, having your time with God and being in His presence, and turning off everything, your phone, your television, your computers, getting off of social media and spending some time in the presence of the Most High God and humbling yourself, confessing to Him, asking for answers, asking for cleansing, asking God to come in you and reveal to you what is right, what is wrong. The world can be gray. God is going to be black and white. The world can tell you you can be just straight up wrong, and the world be telling you, well, it's okay. And it can create some kind of narrative that is so far from the truth, and this twisted logic. It's not even logical. It's distorted thinking, and that's what the enemy uses. Another life lesson again. God blesses, the devil gives you stuff. And what he does when you do it his way, he'll give you things. And he gives you those things to make you feel like you're okay and you're getting away with doing evil. And behind closed doors, you're doing things you shouldn't be doing, saying things you shouldn't be saying. And when he has used you to destroy yourself and others, then voila, he pulls back the cover. He reveals everything you've done. And you've seen enough stories in the news to know that I'm telling the truth. You've seen these stories where over and over and over again, people were doing some dark, evil things behind closed doors. And they just kept doing it because nobody stopped them. And because God is not in their hearts. Then at a certain point, then it was like, I got you now. You've done enough destruction. You've killed. You've deceived. You've done all these things. And now I'm going to reveal the truth. And that's how you end up, being seen as a liar. That's how you end up being in prison. That's how you end up being dead. That's how you end up with these diseases. Like all these consequences, you're not going to escape it. God sits high and he looks low, and he sees everything. And you can deceive people, but you're not going to be able to deceive him. And it's nothing to play with. I wondered why over the years I've thought about this a lot. And this is just from my own journey and also, seeing other things with people. Why is it so hard for us to admit when we're wrong? Why is it so hard for us to say we made a gross mistake? And again, sometimes we have to do it publicly because we're public figures, but sometimes you don't have to do it publicly. You're just talking to that one person. Why is it so hard? It's so hard because God has made us in a way that when we do wrong, we feel bad. The feeling bad is not to crush us. The feeling bad is to motivate us to never want to do the thing that makes us feel bad. So instead of us waddling in our feeling bad, he wants us to feel the bad. So then we're motivated to never feel that way. And so what we try to do, and this is why we never get healing, because people are so busy denying that they did wrong. They're so busy trying to avoid the feeling that you get that is emotional, that is physiological for doing wrong, just straight up wrong, that they're so busy trying to deny that, we're trying to hide that, or we're trying to trivialize that we never get a chance to let ourselves go through the process of feeling bad in order to be healed. It's just like if you had surgery, and let's say you had knee surgery or whatever. When you first come out of the surgery, it's going to still hurt. You're going to have to go through some kind of therapy, physical therapy, and it's going to hurt. But eventually, it will stop hurting if you do everything you're supposed to do. Most people never let themselves go through that process because the feeling bad is so strong and so intense that they just try to avoid it. And when we need to feel it though, and that's the hard part. And I've been there, like I've done something. I'm like, you know what? This hurts to just come, and it all comes back to you. You can't excuse it. You cannot, nobody put a gun, even if they put a gun in your head or knife for your throat, you have to take full ownership, and you have to let that feeling of doing wrong, that pain, work through you, and you get past the pain. And that's how you move from pain to purpose, and you get healing. You cannot get healing if you won't go through that painful process. Think about athletes, people who push their bodies. I remember I taught a student, he made it to the NFL too. I remember when he was in high school, and I didn't really go to football games when I first got to high school. And he told me, hey, I'm a star football player, something like that. And so I didn't know him, but I went to one of the games. And I remember just because where I was sitting, it just seemed like he was a running back. So every time they hit him, I felt like I could feel it. You could hear the pads and stuff, clash, and as they tried to tackle him, but he popped back up every time. And he shared with me something that I never forgot. Like, while we just seeing him run these wonderful touchdowns, we didn't see him in the gym working out in pain. We didn't see him in the sun, in the rain. And that's the part that a lot of people, it's true. There is sometimes, not for everything, but sometimes when there is no pain, there is no gain. That's not all the time, but sometimes it is. Most of these people that you see, even if it's not sports, when they're performing on a high level, they've had to go through some pain to get to the gain, to get to the highest point. It's not easy. That's what we all need to do, because it's really not about Cheyenne Bryant again. It's about all of us. We need to face what we did wrong and let ourselves go through the pain, and then we need to acknowledge it to somebody, especially to God, because you have not fooled God. You cannot hide from God. Everything you do, He knows, He sees, He hears. And so, and again, this is going to end. You see, I've told this story where I've been in the room where someone took their last breath. So I can tell you right now, it's all going to end. And the question is, if there is such thing as your soul goes somewhere else, why play around with your soul going to hell? You know, as a French teacher, former French teacher, I remember studying, I used to have my students study French speakers. And so one of the people that I ended up learning about was René Descartes, who was a French mathematician and he was a philosopher. And if you read his story, there was some point in his life where he was an atheist. He had like a supernatural experience with a horse carriage or something. And he said this something that I never got, and I'm just paraphrasing it in English. It was like, if I believe in God and I die and I find out that I was wrong, I have lost everything. But I have lost nothing. Excuse me. I'm going to change it. Let me go back. If I believe in God and I find out that God does not exist, I have lost nothing. But if I don't believe in God and I die and I find out that God is real, I have lost everything. Your soul belongs to God. We cannot take our next breath without the Most High God giving us permission. That's why we don't need to play with Him. We need to be honest with Him. We need to come clean. This is another life lesson I want to end with this. I want to end this episode. Is I believe that there are times when we need to have a season of solitude. Isolation is more of a negative term. It has a negative connotation. But there are times in our lives when we need to get away from everybody. We need to get quiet. Again, in the Lord's presence, in the Most High's presence, we are in the best place in the world. And that's what Cheyenne Bryant needs to do, and that's what we all need to do. We need to be in God's presence, and we need to spend some time not just talking to God. I talk a lot about how we need to talk to God, but we need to listen to God. We need to get quiet and listen to Him because He has given us answers. Let me tell you something. Just recently, God has shown up and showed out. And I call them little kisses because they're little things that I have going on, and I'm praying about it. And one night I was dealing with something, I was just crying out to God, and God just gave me an answer. He just told me how I could solve this problem. Sure enough, I did what I need to do, and it solved the problem. Here's one that I will share, because the other one was kind of personal, but it was beautiful how God answered it. I struggle with getting to work on time. Okay, y'all, I've been teaching for over 30 years, and for the first time, I have tried to be on time in my life. I really have. And I have the best principal in the world. And I always joke with her, this is the hardest job I've ever loved. And I really want to be on time. And I was just struggling because for whatever the reason, we have to clock in with our fingers, okay? Modern technology. And the machine would just not take my finger. I see people logging in their cars on their devices. Couldn't do it for some reason. It was just like, why? And I would have to walk all the way from my car to my classroom, get my computer, and log on. That was the only way I could log on. Now, before I could log on to the smartboard, we got new smartboards. By the time I tried to log on, it would take me a minute. So anyway, this was taking up about 5 to 10 minutes. And I was like, Lord, I can't keep doing this. I got to figure out a way. So I said, I'm going to try to log in, check in on my iPad. I'm going to just try it, see what happens. Man, when I logged in and I was on time and I used my iPad, I used the Wi-Fi, school Wi-Fi. And I know that may sound so small to someone, but that's a big deal because I had been praying about it. God will answer your small prayers. He will answer your big prayers. He will answer your medium-sized prayers. If you will just let Him in, He's a gentleman. He's not going to knock the door down. Just open the door, Cheyenne. Let Him in. Open the door to the person who is listening to this. And God, and I'm telling you, have peace. And you will have peace, and you may not have a lot. You will still have peace, and you will not think of yourself any less than anybody else. And that's what last but not least. Trying to keep up with the Joneses is exhausting. Free yourself. Stop it. Some of these people have all this stuff, but they don't really have money. What would you rather have? The symbols of wealth and have stuff, or to have real wealth? And I was bused to a school when I was in high school. And I went to school with wealthy people who were outside of our community. They lived in, now their homes probably worth in the millions, but back then they already had like $500,000 homes. And I never saw these people wear so-called name brands. They were taking vacations. They were traveling. They had money in the bank. They had stocks and bonds. And I said, you know what? I want to just walk around plain Jane, and I'm not concerned about the name on my handbag, because my handbag right now holds my money probably the same way if I had a so-called name brand bag. But my leather bag is big, it's nice looking. It holds my money just the same. Listen, y'all, get out of that, because it's messing a lot of people up. And that's a part of the problem too. People striving to be rich and famous. They're trying to live a certain lifestyle. There's a price for that. Now, some people got it. I know people that got it. Baby, Atlanta is the home of more black millionaires than any other place on the earth. We're talking about people that some started from scratch. Some, they're third generation. Their grandparents started the business, or their parents started a business, and it turned out, it worked out. But the reason why they have those businesses, don't forget this, is character. Is character. Whatever you get, the only way you can keep it is with character. And without God being your compass, you can't have character. God will tell you. You know how and let me just say this. I know I don't mention the Bible a lot, even though I read it almost every day myself. But because of the misuse of the Bible and misinterpretations and an intentional abuse of the Bible, I don't want to confuse anybody. But here's the thing, how you know if something is right or wrong. Just ask this simple question. Is it hurting anybody? Is it hurting me? Is it helping people? Is it helping me? When you engage in deception and lies and manipulation, it hurts people. And see, when you get the enemy will work on your head and twist your thoughts, you may not even see it. Because someone dared to ask, well, it's not hurting anybody. Oh, yes, it is. It's hurting a lot of people. Now there's so many people who might have sought therapy. And I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. They want to seek therapy, but then they can't trust, is this person legitimate? Is this person motive to really help me, versus they're just out here trying to get my money? And that's why I'm going to leave with this. I'm not anti-therapy. However, I want to say this. I believe, and I know this may be controversial, that God is enough. I cannot tell you over the years the different challenges and struggles that I've had, and I've gone to God. And He's real. And you don't have to call anybody. You don't have to make an appointment. You don't have to set a time. God is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And He will heal you. You know, you may not hear an audible voice, but I will tell you something. God will send a messenger to you to speak to you, to encourage you, to confirm what He has already put in your heart. I'm telling you, and this is the thing about God. You don't have to worry about anybody repeating what you said, sharing publicly. One of the things that I saw that Cheyenne and Bryant did, which I thought was really, really terrible, is first of all, I don't believe in public sessions. I think that is an absolute no-no. Those sessions, if you're going to do a session, it should definitely be private. But then you should never mention people's names. Whether you're a life coach, even if y'all did it publicly, you should never mention that. Because people at that time, they might have felt like it was okay to be open, and then later they may not want that. It should be private. But the beauty of talking to the Most High God is that you can have that privacy. And I'm telling you what I know. You don't have to worry about anything being repeated or, getting misunderstood. He will keep your secrets, your inner thoughts. Like I told you, I was praying about something and God just kept answering over and over and over again. And He loves you. I want to end with that. Even when you mess up, Cheyenne, God loves you. He wants you to do the right thing because your soul belongs to Him. Souls belong to Him. And we can't escape it. I'm telling you, I'm in that room and I'm watching my sister take her last breath. I'm holding her hand. I'm telling you, it changes your life. We cannot play. You cannot play with God. Get your soul right. We got to get ours. And it's a continual. We have to continually strengthen ourselves spiritually, emotionally, physically. I'm trying to age well. I'm overweight, trying to get myself together. Because because it's you start to feel it. When you get older, you start to feel aches and pains and joints and I got stuff to do. I got work to do for the Lord. And in the natural, there are some things I can pray for God to heal me and do this and do that. But in the natural, there's stuff I got to do. Whether it's eating a certain way, not eating a certain way, exercising, using certain things. Listen, we got to do it. But do not play with the Most High God. And here's the last thing. Ask God to heal your inner child. Because many people, as I said before, they grow up and they face circumstances and situations where they feel worthless, where they feel less than. And many times people have told them that because of, the way they look or what they had or didn't have. It's so many factors that determine that. God has made you. And because He has made you, you are worthy. You're worthy regardless of your educational level, regardless of how much money you have or don't have, regardless of how you look, regardless of what you have or don't. It doesn't matter. You are still worthy. And the problem is that if you're looking over to the left and you're looking over to the right and you're not looking at God, you will never feel like you're enough. And in some cases, you may feel arrogant. You may think you're better than. Because you so focused on you got this, it looks better to somebody else, or you think you have more, and let me tell you something. You find out, what just happened? Kyle Busch just died. I'm from Daytona Beach now. And we race car lovers, and I'm telling you, it just goes to show you that sometimes money, nothing can stop it. You got to be ready. One of my coworkers, she told me one time, she said, you got to be ready. We got to pray, and we got to stop playing. Y'all, but let God make you worthy, and you are worthy. And if somebody got a problem or got something to say, tell them to take it up with God. That's what I tell myself. Tell them to take it up with the Lord. You don't like the way my hair is, or my skin complexion is, or the way my eyes are, my nose. You take it up with God and leave me alone. And that's what you got to do. When you make peace about that's what freed me, is when I made peace about who I was in Christ. That God had made me before my mother even conceived me, and that I was enough because He made me. All the voice that kept trying to tell me that I was crazy, that I was worthless, it became null and void. I realized that person was being used by the enemy to try to make me feel bad because they felt bad, because something was psychologically wrong with them. And because they refuse to really walk with God. They are religious pretender. They are fake as fake can be. They do not know God. Because you cannot know God and not have a remorseful heart and not be repentant and not try to reconcile and acknowledge your evil. And guess what? But once you get a hold of that, oh my goodness, you are free. You never have to worry about comparing yourself with anybody else. You never have to feel like you got to try to overwork and overcompensate and overachieve, trying to prove that you're worthy. Because you are worthy. And that is enough. Thank you so much for listening. Beautiful ladies and gentlemen, I hope that this episode empowered you in some way. Got to get ready for these workshops tomorrow. Nevertheless, I hope that you will like the video if it helped you. and that you will subscribe, because it does help. Apparently, when you do that, well, peace and abundant blessings. May God continue to just shower his love on you. Take care.